Asha Degree disappeared in the middle of the night.
I'm not crazy enough to think that a 9-year-old can disappear into thin air.
Hey family, and welcome back to another episode on our true crime series. Now today's episode we'll be talking about Asha Degree, a 9-year-old basketball superstar.
Asha Degree, who was a 9-year-old basketball star from Shelby, North Carolina. Now, it's been said that she loved basketball. She hated to lose. She was very good at basketball. She was very smart and loving. Now, this story is kind of weird because it's still unsolved and it's about a 9-year-old little girl, and no one wants to hear about a 9-year-old girl going missing and just vanishing without a trace. Now, Asha Degree was 9 years old. They was from Shelby, North Carolina, and all she liked to do pretty much was play basketball and be around her family. Now, Asha went missing on Valentine's Day in 2000, and it was very, very weird how all this went on. Now, it was actually on February 13th that her mother had tucked the kids away, got them ready for bed, and basically put them to sleep. Now, her father and her mom both worked full-time jobs, and he was known to work very long hours, and he would work throughout the night. Now, on this particular night, it was a rainstorm, and weather had got real bad, and it was raining so bad that a car had a crash, and it shut the lights out. At this point, her father had came home. Well, he had came home from work from the storm being so bad. I believe he made it home around 12:30 or so, and a car had an accident, and the lights went out at about 2 o'clock in the morning, and that's when he actually went to sleep because he was up watching TV, and he went to sleep around 2:30 because of the lights went out and things like that. When he got home from work around 12:30, he said he went into the house, he checked on the kids. Her and her brother O'Brien was tucked away in bed, sound asleep. Everything was normal. Now, no one thinks that when I go put my kids in bed and get them tucked away to get up for school the next morning, that one of them would vanish and I would never see them again.
Right.
Now, her dad's name was Harold. Her mom's name was Aquila Degree. And Aquila said she got up in the middle of the night around 2:30 in the morning when the lights went out to check on the kids, and everything was perfect. The kids were sound asleep and things like that, so she went back to bed. Now, she got up around 5:30 in the morning to wake the kids up for school. She went to Asha's room and she called out for her to get up, but she didn't say nothing. So she opened the door. She went in and she seen that it was only O'Brien there, that Asha was nowhere to be found. So at this point, she woke her husband up, Harold, and she told him basically that Asha is not in the room and I don't know who she is. And so he freaked out. Like, imagine someone coming to tell you that your daughter is not in bed where you left her last night and she's not there. Now, he instantly got up. His first thought was that she was over at his mother's house, which stayed right across the street, because they stayed in a small rural area, which it was pretty much a lot of their family stayed in that area and things like that. Now, mind you, they raised their kids where it was just family, friends, and church. Like, they wanted to protect their kids away from the world. They wanted their kids to feel safe. They wanted to protect their kids, and they wanted them raised the right way. So this was completely abnormal for her to not be in her room where she was supposed to be. Now, she's a 9-year-old little girl. Where could she have went in the middle of the night?
Right.
So they called the police, and a police and a sheriff arrived to the Degrees household. They made it there fairly quick, and they explained to them what was going on. And at that point, they instantly had a big search team out looking for Asha right away that morning at like 6:30 that morning. They had helicopters out looking. They had trained search teams out looking. Some of them had dogs and all this good stuff. Now, unfortunately, there was no signs of Asha. Now, all this aired on the TV and things like that this same day. At this point, it's Valentine's Day. It's February 14th. And a weird part about this was her parents, Harold and Aquila, February 14th is actually their anniversary. So now they're dealing with their anniversary, and they also have a missing 9-year-old.
Right.
So they have these big search parties out looking for Asia, but she's nowhere to be found. Now, all this is airing on the TV, and once all this news get out, they had 2 people call, and these 2 people was actually people that was driving by. Now, they said that they remember seeing Asia, a 9-year-old little girl, walking at 4 in the morning in the middle of a rainstorm with a backpack on down Highway 181. That is like, what 9-year-old do you... I have a 9-year-old daughter, and she's not brave enough to leave the house in the middle of the night. No. She's not brave enough to walk out to the car by herself in the middle of the night. Not that I let her, but she wouldn't do it anyway.
Right.
So that left people that left people worried. That left people thinking a lot of different stuff. Now, initially, they was investigating the parents real tough because they had no leads. They had 0 leads. So, Asha Degree said that her and her husband Harold has at this point took lie detector tests. They have donated blood for samples, DNA samples, all this good stuff. And she actually said that they asked for the first lie detector test so they could be cleared as suspects. So now everyone can get on one page and go out and find
their child.
Yeah, find their child. So
with a story that has haunted the small community of Shelby, North Carolina for nearly 20 years. In the middle of the night, a 9-year-old girl walked away from her home and vanished. It was Valentine's Day in the year 2000, and several drivers saw little Asha Degree walking along the side of the highway, but no one called police, and she was never seen again. Reporter Ken Lemon sat down with her heartbroken parents, who say even now, nearly 2 decades later, they are not giving up hope.
Asha Degree is a girl gone too soon on so many levels.
She didn't have a cell phone. There were no laptops, there were no tablets, and there certainly wasn't social media back
None of the things that today would have made it easier to find her were available on Valentine's Day 2000.
I can't give up on her.
Asha became in her disappearance more than a lost girl in a rural community 50 miles west of Charlotte.
What has this 18 years of waiting been like for you?
It's worse than death, because at death you got closure.
After all these years, Asha's parents, Aquila and Harold Degree, still believe she will be found alive.
That's all we have. And until I have concrete evidence, nobody's going to take my hope away.
She said there were more than 500 searchers in the first 2 weeks, but the sheriff didn't let Aquila Degree leave the house.
Go find my child.
The Degrees didn't realize it at the time, but while searchers were combing areas just like this looking for Asha, investigators were wondering what role, if any, the parents played in her disappearance.
Never had to deal with cops. Never had a reason to. So I was like, okay, y'all need to stop asking me questions. We need to get outside. She's not in here. Whatever you need. You want blood, lie detector test, whatever. We've done it all.
And you guys were actually brought in at one time for a lie detector test.
Mm-hmm. Well, actually, we asked for it.
You did?
We were the first one we took. We asked for it because we wanted it out the way. Clear me as a suspect so you can keep looking and keep doing what I need you to do, which is help find my child.
They done all that. They was cleared as suspects. So at this point, the search was really on for Asha. Now, there was no clues. She had packed a bag, and it looked like a planned runaway. Her backpack, she had packed extra clothes. She had her basketball uniform. She had pictures of her family. She had all this good stuff in there. Now, the day she went missing, 2 days before she went missing, Asha had her first basketball game. And this is where the first theory lies. They lost the basketball game. She actually fouled out in the basketball game. And they said she felt like losing the game, it was all her fault. Now,
that was their first loss.
That was their first loss, and they didn't know how to lose. Like,
right.
She was
they
passionate.
were undefeated.
Yes, and she was passionate about the game. She didn't like losing. So a lot of people saying that maybe she couldn't deal with the loss and that's why she ran away. But I have a hard time dealing with that. Like, this is a 9-year-old little girl.
2 days before she vanished, all eyes were on 9-year-old Asha at a school basketball game.
We were 4th grade all-stars.
Bethany Boggs was one of Asha's teammates. She's now 27. She said back then she and Asha felt invincible.
We had a good record, and so to us, we were the best team there was.
As good as they were, in this game, they were not the best. A tough loss for all of them, but apparently, especially so for Asha Degree.
She was competitive and usually happy, but she was upset at the loss that day. It was very hard for us to accept that we had lost that big game that day.
Detectives believe 2 nights later, Asha packed a book bag and simply left home. It was a rainy night. Investigators believe someone saw her walking on the road and took her. When her mother went to wake her up for school that morning, Asha didn't answer.
And something said, open the door.
She wasn't in bed.
Then I went back in our bedroom, woke Harold up, told him Asha's not in his house. He's like, what are you talking about?
A deputy arrived 10 minutes later, about 6:40 in the morning. The sheriff right behind him, and more.
By 7:15, I think I had helicopters and every news truck from here to South Carolina.
Asha Degree disappeared in the middle of the night.
Help came quickly from seemingly everywhere.
See, but they was on horseback, they was on 4-wheelers, they was on ATVs, they was in cars, walking.
So a lot of people also put out there that maybe it was a family member that lured her away in the middle of the night. Maybe came into their home and said, hey, it's your mom and father's anniversary. We're going to do something nice for them. Come with me, and when they wake up, we'll be back and have this good stuff for them. But that's not, I mean, that's just a theory that some people was also saying.
Right, but for them to be walking down a highway and for someone to see this 9-year-old walking down the highway at 4 in the morning.
Yeah, in a rainstorm. So those 2 passerbyers, one of them actually said that he actually doubled back because it looked like a little girl. And when he did, he rolled up on her. He said when she seen him, when he got right up on her, she was very spooked and she took off. She turned and took off running down through the woods. Now, on February 17th, now it's 3 days since Asha has been missing. They actually found it was a shed in the woods in the area where Asha was seen running. Now, this shed was in the middle of nowhere. It was in the middle of the woods, and it was right there along the area where the witness said he pulled up on her and seen her dash through the woods. In that shed, they found a Mickey Mouse hair bow. They found a pen, a pencil, and some candy paper. And after showing all those things to her parents, they confirmed that those things belonged to Asha. So now they're thinking that when he rolled up on her, it was raining. It was a rainstorm in the middle of the night. She dashed and took off running through those woods, and maybe she took cover in that shed and took out her things and started riding and took a hair bow out and things like that. We don't know what actually took place there, but her things, some of her belongings was found in that shed. At this point, the case pretty much went cold. Like, they had no leads. They basically didn't know. It's just, all they knew at this point is that a 9-year-old woke up in the middle of the night and ran away and just vanished. She was walking down a dark highway in the middle of the night with a backpack on, with her basketball uniform, changes of clothes, and they just had no idea. They needed answers. So it wasn't until August 2001, which is a whole year later, that they actually found Asha's backpack and all her belongings buried at a construction site about 25 miles away from where she was last seen walking. Her backpack was wrapped in 2 trash bags. It was buried in the ground, and what they found in her backpack was a book that she had checked out from school. They found some clothes that belonged to her, and they found her basketball uniform, and they also found pictures of her family. So they obviously knew right away that these things belonged to Asha. When they showed all the belongings to her parents, they said that is exactly, like, they knew everything that was missing from their home. That's what was found in that bag. So, but there was still no signs of Asha.
And we're looking for a missing person. Her name's Asha Degree. She's 9
Investigators finally satisfied with the family's response. shifted their focus to tip calls. There were plenty of them, but nothing was panning out. Their first solid clue came a year and a half later, 2 counties and almost 20 miles away. A straight shot of Highway 18 just south of Morganton. A man clearing brush found Asha's book bag just off the highway.
There gave some hope there that we found a piece of something anyway, because we didn't have nothing. They didn't have nothing. And so once they found the book bag, they're like, well, maybe we're getting closer now.
We actually got to see the photographs of everything that was in the book bag, and everything that we reported missing was there.
Particularly looking for something like this in a ditch or on the side of the road or something.
Investigators hope to find evidence that Asha was abducted in this area and that they may even find her body here. These were all trained searchers, combing through thick vegetation. Some had search dogs. They even dug up a few spots. Every development, a new reason for hope, then always anguish.
Just you know, a bunch of emotions, you know, numb or whatever. You don't know for sure. And they could have just been, you know, could have took the book back up there to throw the detective, the police, and everybody off, you know.
There were more tips and more searches, but nothing substantial. Each dead end took a toll on Asha's family.
Every time every time a door knocked, if I thought I seen y'all's truck, any reported anywhere, it was almost like you're on pins and needles, like, are they coming to tell us that they found her and they got here before the police did? Or is they coming to tell her they found her? Or is they coming?
Right.
So at this point, they had no signs. Now, her brother O'Brien and Asia, they both shared one room, and he said he do remember in the middle of the night hearing Asia bed squeak, like, but he said he thought she was just rolling over in the middle of the night. You know how people sleep and change his positions. He didn't get up to look or none of that, but now he knows that's when Asia pretty much was getting up, packing her things, and was leaving. Now, what 9-year-old would pack a bag, pack her basketball uniform, extra changes of clothes, take pictures of her family, and just leave? That's where we are. Like, and no one has answers for that.
Nope.
She's now been missing for 22 years. Her family still has hope, and they just hope. And they said, they're
around
very.
this time, she's believed to be 31. I think she'll be about 31 now.
And they're very spiritual people. They said basically if God had already had her spirit, he would have come to them and told them by now. So they still strongly believe that she's alive. Now, they did get another clue a couple years later that they could possibly help with the case. That someone came out and said that they saw someone that looked like Asia getting in a car on that same highway. And someone came out and said that they remember seeing her get into a car that looked like that. Now, they put this out to the news, but there was never, nothing was never found on that. Now, they never said, they did grab her backpack and test it for DNA and things like that, but they kept a lot of stuff private about this case. They never said what the test results was. They never said if they had, if it even hit for DNA other than hers. None of that was never made public. So here we are with a missing, at that time, 9-year-old, and she's...
2 years ago, 16 years after Asha vanished in the middle of the night, her parents thought there might be a break in the case. Investigators got a tip that someone who looked like Asha may have gotten into a green car like this along the same highway where she was last seen. The next big tip related to that car still hasn't come in.
And it's one of the biggest letdowns because it's like you're reliving everything all over again, which we never forget. We honestly never forget.
And they never give up.
You know where Asha is, and God, we ask in the mighty name of Jesus, bring her back home. And God, we're going to pray until you bring her back home.
Each year, the Degree family holds a march to the spot on Highway 18 where she was last seen, a mile from home. The day Asha was reported missing, truckers passing by said they'd spotted her here. Her parents want people to remember the spot and their daughter.
We're her parents. And if we give up, why wouldn't we expect y'all to give up? So we can't give. For us, we can't give up. Until we have closure, we cannot give up.
So we still have a missing little girl. At the time of her vanishing, she was 9 years old, and now she's believed to be, I believe, like 31, something like that. Around there. She was 9 years old in 2000, and now it's 2022, so you guys can do the math on that. But, I mean, she's still missing, and they have no solid leads. Now, the Shelby County Police Department did say that they're still following up leads. If you have any tips, you can call in and give them to them. We'll have the information below. And they basically saying that they're not going to put this case to bed. They're going to continue to try to bring her justice.
The 9-year-old girl vanished from her home in Shelby back in February of 2000. The FBI announcing today it will bring in a specialized team in hopes of solving the case. NBC Charlotte's Rad Berkey joins us now to explain what those teams will do.
The team the FBI is sending here to Cleveland County from Washington, D.C. is specially trained to deal in cases involving missing children.
Today, I can stand before you and tell you that we've made progress.
Sheriff Alan Norman in the Charlotte FBI office asked the FBI's Child Abduction Rapid Deployment Team, known as CARD, to come to Cleveland County. They believe the case of missing 9-year-old Asha Degree can still be solved 17 years after she disappeared.
We have reason to believe that individuals in this community or the surrounding area have knowledge of or information pertaining to the disappearance of Asha.
The FBI's CARD team is made up of agents, analysts, and profilers who will take a fresh look at what happened to Asha, who was last seen by a number of drivers who saw her walking near her home in Shelby in the middle of the night.
People's perspectives, people remember things differently, so we're definitely conducting re-interviews of people that have been interviewed before.
There have been some leads in the case. Asha's book bag was found buried a year after she disappeared. Recently, investigators got information the little girl was seen getting into either an early 1970s Lincoln or a Ford Thunderbird.
We strongly believe that someone has information that can lead us to Asha.
The reward for information in this case now totals $45,000, and if you do call, you can remain anonymous.
Because at the end of the day, she still hasn't been found. We does not have a deceased person that we can link to Asha. Now, there was a break in the case here recently. I guess I wouldn't call it a break. It was just some stuff that could be a follow-up. Now, it was a girl or something.
It was a girl that ultimately went to jail. And she basically, we'll show you guys a picture, but I mean, I'm not crazy, but they look alike. They look
identical.
So similar. And their stories are similar. Now, the lady that went to jail, she did say that she was abducted when she was 10, and that she know that her mom is not her real mom. And then Asha went missing around 9-ish. They're saying that the lady that went to jail is about 26 now. Maybe, you know, her new parents or whoever she's with was telling her, you know, false information about her age, as well as maybe it's Stockholm syndrome with her. But a lot of people in the jail was saying, like, hey, that's Asha. No, you're Asha. And she's telling them, no, I'm not. Like, I'm not Asha. So, I mean, at this point, we don't have any names on the lady. And it hasn't been confirmed if that's Asha or not. But we'll let you guys be the judge of that. I definitely believe that it's Asha. But we'll let you guys be the judge of that.
Okay, you guys. There has been potentially a huge break in the case of Asha Degree. Asha Degree was just 9 years old when she seemingly just up and left her house in the middle of the night on Valentine's Day in 2000. Now, this woman, whose name has not been made public, and if I do find it out, I will pin it down in the comments, was arrested and is currently locked up in the Caldwell County Detention Center. The inmates noticed that she looked a lot like the famous missing persons case from that area, Asha Degree. They asked her about this and she said, "I don't know. I was abducted when I was 10 years old. I've always known that my mom is not my biological mom." Caldwell County is super close to Shelby, where Asha originally went missing.
Well, we want to thank you guys for rocking with us and for watching our true crime series. If you have any true crimes that you want us to cover, please leave them down below in the comment section. We thank y'all and we love y'all, and we will definitely see you in the next video.